Hello everyone, this is Jay Wengro, and welcome to Think Like a Software Engineer, episode 13. So this morning I received an automated email from a service called Airbrake. Airbrake lets me know by email every time there is an error with my website. So basically what happened is someone tried to go to this particular URL on my website and the website didn't let them. There was some sort of error. Now, what's really cool about Airbrake is that it actually sends me all the details of the error message within the email itself. So before I jumped in to actually go ahead and check it out and attempt to fix it, I thought it would be really cool to make this an actual Think Like a Software Engineer episode so you could watch me live as I go about doing this. And you can see how a software engineer might tackle a real live error affecting their website. So let's do it. So let's start by analyzing the various points within this email. One of the most important elements is the URL that specifies the particular page that the visitor tried to reach and failed to do so. So in this case, that's anyonecanlearntocode.com/codingbootcamp/Little Rock, Arkansas/community info. Another important element is the error message where it says undefined method each for HTML string. We have the file, which indicates the exact line of code within our code base that is affected. So this is the app views pages communities.erb line 41. So line 41 within the communities.erb file. And then we have more details in the backtrace section. So just a little background about the page that this visitor was trying to reach. We have a community info feature. Since Actualize has students across the US via its online live course, so we have this feature that allows visitors to check out local resources in their area. So if you live in, say, Little Rock, Arkansas, you can check out meetup groups, tech meetup groups in your area. So we have a lot of different pages for a lot of different cities across the US. So this visitor apparently is in Little Rock and tried to reach this page, but got an error. So the very first thing that a software engineer usually does when tackling an error is they try to replicate the error for themselves. Do I also get this error? So I can actually click on this link to be sent to that page, and let me see if I get an error. So I do not get an error. I actually successfully get the page of local tech community for those taking a coding bootcamp in Little Rock, Arkansas, and you can see that we have local tech meetups, local jobs, salary information, etc. So this actually works for me, which seems to be a good thing, but is actually sort of a bad thing because it would be much better if I were able to replicate the error message. If I can get the error for myself, then I can know for sure when I fix it, because then I'll fix the error message and see that it's fixed. Since right now it seems to be fixed for me, it's hard for me to know what exactly went wrong for this particular visitor who tried to reach this page and wasn't able to do so. It's a lot harder to debug that kind of situation, but we are going to attempt to do so anyway. Going back to our Airbrake email, the next thing that I am going to do is check out exactly which line of code in my code base is causing the problem. So as we pointed out before, that is within this file section. So it's within communities.erb line 41. So I'm going to pull up my code base. And I'm going to bring up that file. So almost every text editor has a cool feature where you can start typing in the name of your file, and there it is, communities.erb. And then I'm going to zip down to line 41. And here we can see I have a line here that says at meetups.each do meetup. Now, since I happen to be familiar with this code base, I realize what this is. This is the section of code where we are trying to pull up the meetups. So going back to our browser for a second, so this section here, local tech meetups, this list of local tech meetups in Little Rock corresponds to our code here. So something went wrong when trying to pull up the list of meetups. Now, what exactly went wrong with line 41? So I'll go back to my email, and it said the error message, the particular error that was triggered from line 41 is this, undefined method each for HTML string. So there's something wrong with each Now, the way .each works, and we're not going to give a whole coding lesson here, .each tries to go through items in a list. So at meetups is supposed to be a list of meetups. And so at meetups.each is supposed to be that we are iterating, we are going through one at a time each of the meetups, and then we're about to display them on line 42. Now, apparently, the list of meetups was non-existent. Instead, there was probably some sort of error message that gave this HTML string business. So instead of calling .each on a list of meetups, it was somehow calling .each on this HTML string business, which is probably, I already have an idea of what this is, but to confirm it, let's do this. At meetups, the thing that we're calling .each on is a variable. I'm going to just do a quick search throughout my code base, and I can see that at meetups comes from here. So on line 103 here, at meetups equals unirest.get blah 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 api.meetup.com. Okay, so I know what's going on here. The way that this meetups feature work is that these meetups that we have here, I didn't actually find them. I didn't actually go to meetup.com and go to each city and look up all the meetups for myself and store a whole database of all those things. Instead, what we're doing is using what's called an API. An API is a very cool feature of the internet where this page, my page here on the actualized website, is actually communicating with meetup.com's website. It's actually asking meetup.com, hey, can you give me a bunch of local tech meetups in Arkansas or in Little Rock specifically? And the API from Meetup is giving that back to my website, and my website is displaying those things. So this line of code 103, it's actually asking the Meetup API for a list of meetups, and then it's taking that list, storing it in this variable called @meetups, and then on this page, it actually goes through each of the meetups in that list and then displays each one on line 42. Again, this might be a lot if you're not familiar with coding or web development, but hopefully you get a gist of what's going on here. So I believe I have cracked the puzzle here. What I think happened here is that, let's go back to this file for a second. One of the weak points of using an API, one of the weak points of trying to have our website communicate with someone else's website, is that let's say the Meetup API isn't functioning correctly. This can happen for a variety of reasons. Maybe their servers are down. Maybe there's a programmer error on their side. If for some reason the Meetup API is not functioning correctly, then when my website tries to communicate with their website, the communication doesn't go through. The Meetup API will give our website an error. And once our website is unable to successfully retrieve the list of meetups and instead just gets an error, then when this code tries to display the list of meetups, it ends up trying to iterate through an error message instead of a list of meetups, and therefore blows up and gives the error message that we saw in the Airbrake email. What this means is that there was a temporary blip where the API was down, where the Meetup API wasn't functioning correctly. And that means that even though for a given time there was a user out there who tried to reach our Little Rock page and it didn't work because the Meetup API was down, it has been fixed now, meaning Meetup API is back up and running 100%, and our website is also therefore back up and running 100%. So technically, there's nothing I need to do. It was just a temporary blip. Our website relied on someone else's website. The other website was down. Now it's fixed, so therefore our website is fixed. All is good. However, it would actually make sense to try to prevent this in the future. Now, I cannot prevent the Meetup API ever going down again. However, I could and will write code here that says, hey, check this @meetups variable. Make sure it's a list of meetups before we try to display it. If it's not a list and instead it's an error message that we're getting from the Meetup API, then do not attempt to display the list of meetups. And this way we can prevent such a problem in the future. This is known as graceful degradation. Basically, we are purposely making sure that our website degrades, meaning it doesn't function 100%, meaning it's not going to attempt to display the list of meetups. But what's going to end up happening is that on this page, the local jobs will still show up, the salary information, the local tech events will still show up, but just the local tech meetups alone won't show up, which is a lot better than what was happening until now, which is that when the meetup API was down and someone tried to visit this page, they weren't able to visit this page at all. They just got a page that said error. So thanks for joining me on tackling a real error on a real website, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.